Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to the Datacron set review for Set 18, No Mercy. Once more, it is my pleasure and privilege to be joined by Aesop Rock, one of the very top players in Grand Arena. Always a pleasure to have him here and get his insights. How you doing today, sir?
Doing good. How you doing?
Doing well. So, this is kind of an interesting set. We've got a lot going on under the hood. Let's dive right in. First, a note on stats. So, this is a very rare opportunity where you've got bulk, max health and protection on Dark Side level 3, but you also have stats that you can pick up health and protection throughout stats. So that's pretty rare. There's going to be some really absurd numbers on your dark side teams in this set. An interesting observation. I don't know if you wanted to expand on this, Aesop. Your comment here about the potency versus tenacity in this set.
Yeah, it's just that it's interesting that usually they match these, and so they're the same. But in this set, for some reason, they've increased potency over tenacity. So as you scale through the different ones, you can ramp up your potency way higher than your tenacity, which is
Right.
unusual for sets. So
Right. We see that here in the first block. It's 15 to 35% potency versus 10 to 25% tenacity. And, so it goes. It's going to be 15% more max potency than tenacity in the middle rolls. And then what? 30% more max potency than tenacity in the highest rolls. All right. Yeah, as far as other stats go, so yeah, you're going to be looking for your health and protection, of course. The crit damage numbers are pretty big, honestly. Health steal is terrible, and Aesop was talking about that one earlier too. Before we started rolling, the health steal numbers are really underwhelming. So consider that. That might be one of your throwaways to roll away. Let's go ahead and dig into alignments then. First, light side. A quick note on alignment here. Old Republic is the only light side faction in this set. So Mercenary and Ufu are both considered dark side. So if you get Old Republic on level 6 and you don't like it, tough, because that's the only game in town. So something to keep in mind. As far as the better light side level 3 abilities, you've got when light side allies inflict a debuff on an enemy, they deal damage to an enemy equal to 2% of that enemy's max health. That's a classic. You'll probably be seeking that out for your Jabba team to replace what you're losing from the outgoing set 16. The product's kind of weak for that next one. The tenacity up gain when light side allies start their turn with at least 3 debuffs that can be dispelled might be situationally useful. It's okay. When allies gain a buff, they recover 2% health and protection. For any of your buff-heavy teams that you might be putting on defense, that could be good. Not necessarily bad on offense either for Banner Perfection. And then when light side allies use a special ability, they gain evasion up, health steal up, and health up for 2 turns. So this is, your counterpart to that dark side level 3 ability on set 17, the previous set. These are all kind of except for the debuff max health damage. So good to keep in mind. Not only good for Jabba, by the way. Right. Dark side mechanics. The 2% health recovery when they crit an enemy is meh. Dark side tank revive is of course great because this is not just revive. It's reset their cooldowns and gain a bonus turn. So I remember this being around when Malgus was brand new. This can be a tough customer. Dark side allies gain 10% TM whenever an ally or enemy is defeated. I don't tend to like this one. This is kind of like it's a win harder if you're already winning, and if you're losing, 10% turn meter for everybody is probably not going to be what's going to save you. And then at the start of the encounter, dark side allies gain 15% max health and max protection for each other dark side ally. That's probably going to be the default for most of your dark side teams. This one or the very next one. Whenever dark side allies use a special ability, they gain 15% turn meter. These two are going to be the competitors for just about every situation. I'd say offensively, for the most part, I'm probably going to favor the turn meter, and defensively, the bulk. I don't know if you had any insights on these alignments that you wanted to share here, Aesop.
No, I mean, again, those I think are the big two. Obviously, there's situational ones for like Malgus, for instance. The tank revive might work because you can roll a bunch of health on the set now too, so that can obviously help.
Yeah,
Make him dunk harder.
that's an
Um,
interesting point. You know, you have two stat rolls, so you could get up to 60% max health just on the level 7 8 stat rolls if you got a max roll, for example, to say nothing of
mhm.
what you can stack up from the lower rolls.
Yeah.
Easily you can compensate for the lack of that bulk level 3. And yeah, that's a good point. That's a good one for your Malgus
Well,
at least.
yeah, especially for threes when you don't have as many tunes in the comp to help jack up that that's gonna be the difference too.
Super
So
smart observation. Yeah, you don't get as much value for that bulk level 3, but the stats will be the stats on the cron regardless.
correct.
Very fair. All right, let's get into factions, guys. First up is Mercenary. You're not going to be terribly surprised to learn that where they pack in the long text, this one is very good. At the start of each of their turns, Mercenary allies have 2% offense equal to the number of stacks of Soldier of Fortune they have until they are defeated. Whenever an enemy attacks out of turn, they take bonus true damage, which can't be evaded and can't defeat them. So, yeah, Soldier of Fortune is specifically going to be Balin's mechanic, right? Like you have it on other mercenary characters, but I think it's largely unactivated without Balin. So we can expect that you'd be using this for sure whenever the bespoke Balin Kron comes out. But otherwise, this next one is an excellent choice. Whenever mercenary allies inflict a debuff on an enemy during their turn, they deal bonus damage equal to 10% of that enemy's max health, which can't be evaded. So that's huge. It just so happens that Dash is a mercenary, so just think about what that could mean. With a huge hit out of him with his third ability. The next one
Hmm.
is also a winner here. Whenever mercenary allies use a special ability during their turn, they stun target enemy for one turn, which can't be evaded or resisted. This next one is less powerful than I think the previous few. At the start of their first turn, mercenary allies gain offense equal to 400% of their current defense. They then lose 50% defense. So this has been pretty nasty in the past on other factions. But Aesop, I know you were telling me here that you actually had a cron with this ability, and you felt like it wasn't
Hmm.
working. You felt like you were getting any punch out of it.
Yeah, again, because there's no defense stats on the set, I think that impacts this too. That you don't have that high defense to change to offense, and I think that matters, right? That you don't ramp up that high number to generate that high offense
Solid,
level.
solid observation. This is probably one of the very worst level sixes for that reason. No defense really to convert. So and then the next one is at the start of battle, mercenary allies gain retribution for 3 turns, which can't be dispelled. Might be situationally useful, probably exclusively on defense. Difficult to see exactly where, because it's not that it's bad by itself, right? But compared to the first 3 abilities here, I don't know. I don't know that I'd take it. Anything you have to say on mercenaries?
Again, I think the stun long text. I want to see the long text one if things change with Soldiers of Fortune and they do more mercenaries and stuff. If it really is only confined to Balin that's stuck.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm hoping we see more of this with mercenary leads and stuff. It is. I feel like it's a cool faction, but it really doesn't feel like any leaders. All the leaders are scoundrel leaders, and it's hard to make the full mercenary. At least in five, make the full mercenary team,
Mm-hmm.
and that only have scoundrels. So I'm hoping they expand with that. Next tune,
Fair.
etc.
Yeah, yeah. As far as like a default choice here, where otherwise, unless otherwise stated, probably the stun is the best way to go, followed by the debuffs doing max health damage because a lot of your mercenary teams are going to feature tons of debuffs, so that'll work out well. And then yeah, I agree with what you just said that Soldier of Fortune, it needs to reveal itself for where this is actually going to be mostly useful. It does seem to belong to Balin for now, but
Yeah.
hopefully we see more. All right, next, unaligned force user. So Again, long text is king here. Whenever a dark side or light side unaligned force user critically hits an enemy, dispel all debuffs on themselves and gain 5% turn meter. Whenever a dark side or light side UFU uses a special ability against an enemy with at least three debuffs, reduce that enemy's max health by 5%. Hi, Inquisitors team! Whenever a dark side or light side unaligned force user uses a special ability when they have at least 3 buffs that can be dispelled, gain 5% max health. So that's, this is Ray and Inquisitors at the very least, but this is an incredible skill. Let's see, just a quick perusal over these other ones. They're all kind of poor choices, I think, compared to the first one. That's difficult to see. So whenever a debuff on an enemy expires, UFU allies gain 2% potency and tenacity stacking until end of battle. The first time each UFU ally falls below 50% health, they gain DI for 1 turn and gain health steal up for 2 turns. UFU allies start the battle with damage immunity for 2 turns. Could be situationally useful. Maybe just have 1 for giggles. And then the last one, whenever an UFU ally defeats an enemy, they take a bonus turn. I tend not to like things like this only because it feels like it's win harder. It's not gonna move the needle on whether or not you're winning the fight. But what do you have to say on these, Aesop?
For the UFU ones, yeah, I mean the long text one is fantastic. Again, the tenacity one is, I still don't fully see where that's going to provide value. And the damage immunity ones always sound cooler than they are. I think they're all dispellable, and so then it's just like people just figure out how to deal with it. You're like, oh, I'm going to start with this will work, and then you just get dispelled and it doesn't do anything, and there goes your level 6. So in this case, I'm pretty sure the long text is going to be the way to go for pretty much all of them.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of my gut on it as well. It's just way too good. All right, last faction here, Old Republic. So again, this is your only light side faction. There are no other options. So, as far as the 6s go, whenever an Old Republic ally defeats an enemy, they refresh the cooldown of all Old Republic allies. Next one is whenever Old Republic allies grant a buff to another ally, that ally gains 10% turn meter, limit once per turn per ally. Whenever an Old Republic ally recovers health, they recover protection equal to the amount of health recovered. Old Republic allies can't recover protection this way more than once per turn, or if their health was at full. And then the first time for each Old Republic ally falls below 50% health, all Old Republic allies reduce their cooldowns by 1 and gain 10% turn meter. And then whenever Old Republic allies target another ally with an ability during their turn, they both gain 5% defense, max health, max protection, and offense stacking until the end of battle. So, feel free to interrupt me here on this one, Aesop, but this whole faction seems like garbage.
Yes.
Like unqualified garbage. Like you're probably just gonna use a set 17 with like turn meter gain on the level 3 or something before you're worried about making use of this Old Republic faction. What say you to that?
I mean, yeah, there's some stuff we'll play with the level 9s, maybe that can be useful, and you can maybe do some, funky things in 3s with some of these things, right? But for 5s and core teams and all of that, yeah, they're just kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
It's just not a big enough faction to do anything cool with. So.
Yeah. Well, there's that caveat for maybe if you're playing with Datacrons and you're at a lower level of play and you're maybe going to make a Carthonasi team, maybe we can try and spin up an idea that would be good here when we get to that part. But you really are going to have to bend your brain to make use of this faction. So, well, I guess what we're effectively saying is that this is a Darksiders set. It just as much as set 17 was mostly a Lightsider set, but not nearly so much as this one's a Darksider set.
Yeah.
All right. let's get into the characters then. So, when we get to the end of this, I have a table prepared here. Aesop and I came up with, your absolute must-haves, the ones you really want to see out of this set. I'll show that towards the end, but we'll go ahead and quickly run down each of these characters. Jolie Bindo, whenever another ally attacks during Jolie's turn, Jolie and that ally gain 25% turn meter, limit once per turn. It's nice, if you have it, you might use it with wherever you're using your Jolie, with JML or JKR or a JKL lead or however else you're doing it. It's not terrible, but certainly not must-see. Mara Jade the Emperor's Hand, at the start of any other non-Emperor Palpatine ally's turn, Mara Jade gains a stack of Loyal Hand. Whenever an ally with less than 100% turn meter gains bonus turn meter, they gain 3% critical chance and critical damage stacking for 1 turn. Whenever an enemy is inflicted with shock, they take damage equal to 10% of their max health. Now, this one isn't must-see, but it could be potentially kind of sneaky, because you'll see that there's a Star Killer level 9 that is just out of this world. It is one of the must-haves in this set. And so, intuitively, you're not going to be running Mara Jades when you could be having Star Killers. So, unless maybe you're thinking that if your Star Killer goes with, I don't know, you want to do some type of Darth Vader lead team, or if you want to stick your Star Killer in with Seer, and the UFU team and take advantage of that superpower, you could do that, and now your Mara Jade is kind of a free agent. Interesting to think that, she would work well with other UFUs, and interestingly, this second clause of her 9, at least to me, suggests that she doesn't care who her allies are. Whenever an ally with less than 100% turn meter gains bonus turn meter, they gain 3% crit chance and crit damage stacking for 1 turn. It's not bound by faction. There might be some opportunity to make use of that. I don't immediately see where, but that's going to be one, perhaps, that's going to get a lot of experimentation.
Oh yeah, definitely gonna play with this. Like even Magma Trooper, who gains a bunch of TM, like it could be fun. There's all sorts of fun stuff you could do with this.
Yeah, creating some crazy turn meter loop that just ends up stacking like infinite crit damage, almost like a mini contained support set 16 effect. Yeah, that's kind of wild. All right, next one, Carth Onasi. Okay, guys, this is really the only halfway decent looking Old Republic ability here, but I think it's an illusion. I don't know where you want to be doing a Carth Onasi team in the modern game. Nevertheless, I'll read it out. Carth has plus 100% max health, max protection, and potency, and he gains 15% turn meter whenever another character ends their turn. Whenever he uses his basic ability, he attacks 2 more times. Whenever an Old Republic ally resists a debuff, they dispel all debuffs on themselves and gain 10% tenacity, stacking until the end of battle. Whenever an Old Republic ally is dazed, they dispel it, and whenever they dispel daze, they gain 15% turn meter. Whenever Carth uses a special ability, he triggers the damage of all damage over time debuffs on enemies. Whenever an enemy is defeated, Carth gains 25% offense, stacking, and crit damage stacking until the end of the battle. His cooldowns are reset, and he gains 100% turn meter. It's supercharging the character, to be sure, but where he fits in the modern game is pretty unclear to me. It is of note, whenever Carth uses a special, he triggers the damage of all damage over time debuffs on all enemies. Again, this is unbound. It doesn't require a specific faction. So maybe there's some little game to be played with a Darth Vader or even a Lord Vader. I don't know. Instantly triggering damage over times may not be good for the enemy, Carth would have to be pretty fast to get a lot of advantage out of that, though. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's a lot of work to make a poor one halfway decent. Any thoughts there,
Got it. Yeah, I'm running Carth with my Tuscans. It's going to be awesome.
As a fifth, I don't know. Why not? Bottom front wall, next 5 versus 5 season, see what the enemy does.
Yeah, it's just sad. Like it could be so good. Again, if Karth had like a scoundrel tag or had something other than that, or if they didn't peg it only to Old Republic for the
Mhm.
anti-days and all the other fun parts of this kit, like it could be something. But there's just again, there's not enough Old Republic. You are wed through the rest of the Quran through light side and then an Old Republic 6, which mitigates the other parts of the Quran that could potentially help other factions.
Mhm.
So you're just kind of stuck with Karth and some Old Republic stuff, and you kind of hope it works. So it's really is Karth and the traditional Old Republic team of like Mission and Candy and Zalbar, and then plus one like Juhani, and you hope this Kron, this nine, is enough to power that whole team to relevance in the modern era. And I'm skeptical.
Yeah, I'm same. Likewise. All right, next up, Juhani. Possible Juhani mechanics. Whenever she loses taunt, remove 50% turn meter from all enemies. It's not terrible, but pretty much anywhere where you'd be using this character, there's something better. For my part, in Grand Arena, certainly, this character is almost exclusively only used as a backup tank with Star Killer if I need one, and she is exclusively used in like Territory War, only with Star Killer. So that said, there's a Star Killer level 9 that we're going to get to that is way better, so I don't think you're ever going to pick this. Grand Inquisitor is one of the must-haves in this set. While he is active, Inquisitorious allies are immune to fear and stun, and whenever an ally or enemy is defeated, Inquisitorious allies gain 50% turn meter, damage immunity for one turn, which can't be copied, and their cooldowns are reset. It's insane! And we haven't had necessarily anything heavily favoring Inquisitors out of set 17. So here's your power spike you've been missing. Any creative thoughts you have on this one, Aesop?
Must have. Do it. It's
Get
your Inkron now. It's got the UFU 6, Bulk 3, or TM3. You're ready to roll. Just go kill things.
Absolutely. All right, this Kylo Ren, this is the masked Kylo Ren. This is just bum. Like they had to give you some bum ones so that you had an incentive to re-roll it to get one of the good ones. Here's one of the bad ones. Next is T3M4. Whenever T3 uses a basic ability on his turn, other allies gain 25% turn meter. So intuitively, you'd want him with somebody that's doing a lot of calls to assist, mass assist, stuff like that to get a lot of value out of this. Don't really see where that is. In the modern GG team, there really is no place for this character. He's just an inferior choice to what the other droids could offer, General Grievous. So, again, feels like a reroll candidate. Jango Fett. Whenever Jango Fett is dealt damage, reflect 20% of the damage dealt back onto the attacker as true damage, which can't be evaded. This damage can't defeat enemies. Yeah, so, set 16 with the support cron for Wat Tambor is on its way out, and when it's gone, it's not that this one's crazy good or anything, but nothing else is really jumping out specifically for that team in this set. And if all goes well, your Dooku's putting everybody but Jango under stealth, and if they have to hit him, I would just as soon have you take some true damage for the effort. So not the best, but definitely can be put to use.
Yeah, the only challenge I have with that is that usually he's still in DI when you're working on him.
And you get nothing
right?
for that.
You're not
yeah.
even doing any damage, so nothing's getting reflected. So it just seems kind of useless.
It is. It's very poor. If you happen to have one that's spare that goes on your trench team, great. But again, yes, you're right. He has 2 turns of damage immunity, and while he can't take damage, there's no damage to be reflected. So kind of crap. All right, next up, Dengar. Whenever an enemy takes a turn, Dengar takes a bonus turn. So it's like the good Sabine thing, right? During this bonus turn, Dengar deals 100% more damage. This bonus turn can't trigger this effect on enemies. So, I was talking about this with Aesop before we started recording. It feels like this one could be good, and I was doubting with him. I was like, you think this one's must-see? You think you got to have this? He said, yes, unqualified. So, expand on that, Aesop.
I just think there's a lot of fun. The bonus turn stuff always has good things with it. Like taking bonus turns is great. And Dengar has a lot of good things with his kit, and that he's, a bounty hunter, so he can go do bounty hunter things. He's a scoundrel, so he can go with scoundrel stuff. He has tenacity down. He drops thermals. Goes into stealth. He's super tanky, so he's hard to kill as a bonus turn thing. Like, there's tons of potential with this, and lots of fun. And you can mod him for damage. So
that is true. I think as a minimum, though, tell me if I'm wrong in for this application. But classically, you take advantage of Dengar's thermals. You want them to crit, and you want to have high potency, because if they crit, they do turn meter reduction, and that's where you need the potency to make sure that lands. So you still want to be 100% plus potency and 100% plus crit chance at a minimum, right?
Maybe. And this again, where your stats on your cron are going to matter. Guess what this set has? Potency and crit chance.
Sure. So let's say then effectively at battle start you want him to start with 100% crit chance and potency as a base, right? Because basically if he's not able to just keep popping off with those grenades, I think his biggest value to the team will be him being able to consistently throw those grenades out because of these bonus turns, right?
Yeah. Well, and then you get 10 down with the grenades too, and so you can pop all sorts of things, do all sorts of stuff with that too.
Yeah, your bonus turns mean that you could throw the grenades again maybe before the tenacity down is worn off. So
correct. You're going to be taking a lot of turns.
So after that, I usually would tell people classically to just stack speed, because you would want him to potentially get more than one set of those bombs out, but like you're saying, we've got
offense. You
want
him hitting hard. You want crit damage triangle. You want as much crit chance on an offense as you can, and then you want him
though. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You want him hitting hard.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a good plan. Next up, Eighth Brother. I don't even need to say it. You're really, you're just not going to use this when you have that Grand Inquisitor ones. At the start of Eighth Brother's turn, they have a 20% chance to gain 50% defense penetration for one turn. That's so terrible. All right. Next, Hondo Onaka. Guys, long awaited. This is one of the required ones out of this set, in my opinion, because if you're a fan like me of Hondo Onaka, long have I awaited for this level 9 ability to come back. When he was fresh on the holo tables, they released him with a Datacron with this 9, and when it left, you really saw him fall into disuse. It takes so much longer for him to ramp up his ransom without this ability, but with this in the house, it's nuts. So whenever Hondo Onaka uses a basic ability, he gains 9 additional stacks of ransom, protection up 100%, stacking for 2 turns, and reduces his cooldowns by 1. He's going to be blazing, folks. And when you're thinking about, oh yeah, but how am I going to make use of him? Think about all your mercenary teams. Bam is a mercenary. Dash is a mercenary. Sana is a mercenary, just to name a few. Next up, Star Killer. This is one of the kings, man. Whenever another ally uses an ability on their turn, Star Killer assists, limit once per turn, dealing 50% more damage. So this is going to have him stack Unleashed from his basic all the time. He's going to very quickly get to Unleashed, and he's untethered from needing to be with, like EP Mara Jade, or having like a Darth Vader, being able to pop off Merciless Massacre, taking multiple turns, calling him to assist. He's freed up from that. Whenever another ally uses an ability on their turn, he will assist. Aesop, I know you have this, and you said you did a little testing. What can you share with the people about how much you like this one?
It's crazy. I was just playing with it, literally with this 9. I think I had the long tech stick. It was just horrible stats, all potency on the stats. This is useless. But then I was able to just take a Seer, I think it was Seer and SK, just a full UFU team. So it didn't even have any of the SK basic, and I just crushed a JMK Flow team in Arena. I was like, oh, this is cool. So I was like, oh, this is fun.
Crushed without any of the GAC Omis active. That's it.
Exactly. I was like, oh, this is cool. So yeah, it's going to be gross. Just warning you, the 50% more damage is real. When it's going to get silly.
That's right.
He's going to hit really hard.
That's 50% more, not less, guys. You're used to thinking about a lot of mechanics that say, okay, you get to do an assist and you do half damage when you do it. No, this is 150%.
it's gonna hurt. He's gonna ramp real fast and kill things real quick.
It's gonna be
So
great, man. I'm gonna love using this for the night. And you know
yeah,
this.
are you?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say you. I hope you're climbing up to top 8 because I'm gonna have some fun on the defense. I got some crons for this week, and we're gonna have a good time up here.
Man, I hope so. I mean, you know, I've been hovering between like 20
I
and
know.
50 for most of the year because even when I have, I'm mostly going 2-1 these days. But when I have my odd weeks of 3-0, it'll be treading water as far as my seed
Yeah,
placement for the next week. So I truly don't think CG has an intention of fixing that erodium bug at this point. I feel like their solution long term is to introduce whatever will replace Grand Arena. That's what I'm thinking they have to be doing because you can't be in my opinion. You feel free to disagree with me about this, but I don't think you can be a serious company doing software development, making games, and having a bug like this that is as severe as this be long
yeah.
standing. You can't tell me that you can't figure it out. You can't tell me you haven't had the time. What you are telling me by not fixing it is you're just going to replace the whole thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. They've got to do something. I think they've
Yeah.
known that it's a problem. It's just they don't feel it impacts a big enough portion of the population that it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
worth trying to make that hot fix for, and they'll just deal with it when it gets dealt with.
Absolutely.
So,
All right, next up, Aura Sing. This is another one you can feel safe about re-rolling. Whenever an enemy is stunned, Aura Sing takes a bonus turn. Could be potentially. Well, let's put it this way: if you're already using your bounty hunters to snipe things out, like your Aura bounty hunters, this is a win harder, right? I don't think you need it, but if you have it, you could use it. Okay, this one is deceptive. Maul. The first time Maul is defeated, they are revived with 100% health, gain health over time 75% for 2 turns, and take a bonus turn. So, when you're doing like Maul Mandalorians, maybe this is useful if they go in after Maul. But I was talking about this with Aesop before we started, and I was saying, this could, I don't know, maybe this is useful with Lord Vader too, wherever you're going to be using your Maul. And, you rightly pointed out to me, Aesop, that with set 17 Moff Gideon Kron, once set 16 expires, you might very well expect to see Moff Gideon with a Lord Vader team. So, fair enough. But did you have any comments you wanted to throw in on the usefulness of this Maul, level 9?
I mean, there's obviously potentials. You can try to figure it out. There's fun stuff to do with Maul. The problem is, again, it's going to be tethered to your Ufu 6. Um,
Right.
so it's not going to impact the rest of the Mandos if you're running with Mandos. And some of the Mandos are really good with the mercenary stuff. So I don't know. It's possible. It could be
Very
good. Like
fair.
again, because now Gar and ISB are free because their Gar's Kron's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you do want to run Maul back here with them, and maybe there's some fun stuff to do. So I don't know. It'll be some experimentation. So
Fair enough. All right, next up, Sortie. While Sortie is active, at the start of Sortie's turn, apply spare parts to all other droid allies that do not have it. Whenever droid allies gain spare parts, they gain 25% offense, stacking for the rest of the encounter. And whenever a droid ally is defeated, dispel all debuffs on Sortie. This is really powerful. I know we've had this before, and I forgot how we used it, but I remember people made use of it. You're not, I'm not really thinking of a super powerful. I mean, maybe you're doing like an Afra team, with this somehow. I don't know. What jumps out at you about this one? Because this is definitely not a must-have, but it feels like there's something lurking there.
I mean, I think it's just going to be the droid team, just your original full droid team, and that you stack and do damage with potency and debuffs and try to just like do stuff. Because I remember this team being annoying before. So
Maybe this is everybody put their Sortie Lobot team in spec in order for use with set 16. Maybe that team has a future beyond the death of set 16. Do you have a thought about that? Seemed pretty
I mean, very
dependent
possibly.
on that
Yeah.
level 6. I'll grant you that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Again, you're stuck with the Old Republic 6 here too, so that kind of hurts you.
Right. That's right. It is pretty lame. Speaking of lame abilities, Mission Vows, level 9 says whenever she gains stealth, she recovers 100% protection. Eh. Shin Hati, she gains 15% turn meter when other allies use a special on their turn. So, the bespoke Balin Skullcron has yet to be announced. We don't know what it will be, but it would be a direct competitor for this. So, you figure for the most part, you're going to be using Shin with him if you're getting him. You won't be using this level 9. However, if you're not getting Balin immediately, this seems like it might be good. Like, you could put Shin. People have already been putting Shin in their Seer Malicos teams because she has a physical damage AoE. Also, can do cooldown increase, I want to believe. Turn meter reduction. She's a nasty customer that hits the entire enemy team. So, hastening her getting to use that ability at least one more time in a battle could be pretty nasty. Any supplemental thoughts from you on that one, Aesop? I'll take that as a no. All right. I don't know if you maybe your mic's on mute. I don't know. Oh, okay. I just got a note here from Aesop. He just got a phone call here while we're recording. But I've already got the notes here. We're going to be good to close up the video, so don't worry about it. Next up is Terran Malicos. At the start of battle, Terran Malicos gains 5 stacks of Edge of Madness and 3 stacks of Resilient Defense, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. The first time Terran Malicos gains 20 stacks of Edge of Madness, he gains a bonus turn, and his cooldowns are reset. So, to be perfectly honest with you, this one I think should be avoided. In the past, the last time we had this ability with a Resilient Defense, the issue was that when he's taunting, the enemy team just focuses him down. So you make him weaker. Unless you have some plan, like if you wanted to use this on attack, and you knew that if you put someone else on your team that had a higher AI priority, maybe, but AI really likes to go after Terran because they know what he's about. He will save his other Ufu allies if you don't kill him first. So I would say avoid this one. I remember the last time we had it, I had 2 Terran Malicos crons, and I took the Terran one that didn't have this ability specifically, so I wouldn't get laid out by that. And then last here is Zalbar. This is another one you can feel kind of safe about re-rolling. Zalbar gains 20% defense for each Old Republic ally. Whenever another Old Republic ally uses a special ability, Zalbar recovers 20% health and protection and inflicts a stack of damage over time for 2 turns on all enemies, which can't be evaded. So, this whole thing is about his Old Republic allies. And realistically, maybe you use a Tarful team and throw him on here. But he would get pretty much no value out of this level 9 because none of his other allies would be Old Republic. So that's my thought on that one. All right, you guys have been patient. Let me pull it up. Let me get you guys the table on the early winners. That's some mercenaries. I was looking at that earlier. But here you go. Set 18, early winners. Let me see how that looks on screen for you guys. It's not too horrible. Could I blow it up a little? Not in a way that's going to make it more readable for you guys. Hold on. I can do better. I can do better than this. I got you guys. You know I got you guys. There you go. Okay, so there's only really a few that are absolutely mandatory. First is Starkiller, level 9. You'll want to take the long text Ufu ability, and then level 3, you have the option of going with either the 15% max health and protection or the 15% turn meter on special. Those are both dark side abilities, of course. All right, next is going to be Hondo. You can take this with the, what is this? The Mercenary stun on special or the 10% max health damage on debuffs. That's your level 6. And then level 3 will be 15% turn meter on special. Dig this. This is a dark side, level 3, and that's specifically with use with Afra in mind, right? Think about that. You've got the 15% turn meter dark side ability, great for the rest of your Afra team. You know, it doesn't help Hondo himself. You've got stun on special that you could choose with your Afra team, but me personally, I think that team's a lot less about control than it is about just exploding them. So if I'm using this Hondo team with Afra for the most part, I would opt for the max health damage on debuffs. All right. Next up is Dengar. Again, yeah, a sneaky one. You might not necessarily think he's so great, but that bonus turn and that 100% extra damage, that's a lot for his kit. So take him, and with the level 6, go with Mercenary Stun on Special. Level 3, you can go with the max health or protection, 15%, or the 15% turn meter on Special. I think it's about where you intend to apply him. That would make him, better. My gut is probably the turn meter for most applications. All right, last is the Grand Inquisitor Kron. You're going to take the long text Ufu on this one, no doubt. And then, 15% max health or protection seems like a clear winner for defense if you're inclined to put this on defense, especially since you can stack it with the max health and protection stats that you can roll on the Kron. That seems like a really great choice. Otherwise, you would consider the 15% turn meter on special. That might be the generically better choice on offense for this team, so you might consider going either way. But that takes us to the end here. So, I know he had to jump off. He had an urgent call pop in. But thank you, again, so much to Aesop Rock for making time to be available here for this show. And, thank you. If you've watched all the way to the end here, give a like on the video. Hit subscribe to see more from the channel. And until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.